Hi 4th grade, welcome back. So we've been working on our gemstone project. Last time we drew our gemstones with straight lines and then we went over them with Sharpie. Then we added tints, shades, and hues to make it look real. I will go over all those expectations, but let's talk about why we're talking about gemstones. So we've talked a lot about different gemstones and crystals, but one thing I wanted us to notice is that all gemstones have different areas where it's very dark, and then areas where it's very light, and then areas where it's the color of the rock only. Now, I want you to think really hard about this. If someone could, please raise their hand and tell us why they think these rocks, even though they're one color, why do we see tints, shades, and hues when we look at them? I hope that someone said it is because they reflect light. When something is very shiny, like a diamond, it could reflect light in different ways. So as I walk around a diamond, it could change, but I see that some areas are light, those reflect more light. Some areas are dark, which reflect less light, and then we kind of have our balance of hue. You may already be talking about this in science class, but one thing that scientists have noticed is that when you send light, like white light, through a prism, it refracts or kind of separates and bends into the colors of the rainbow. Some gemstones and crystals, they refract light, so which means that they create light into a rainbow, or sometimes they don't and they just reflect light, like kind of like the crystals that we're making, where there's just the light parts, the dark parts, and then kind of the middle parts. Now, the reason that we've been talking about gemstones is because I want to introduce you to a style of art called cubism. So the cubists, the people who created cubist art, they really like the idea of all these different spaces looking different. They wanted it to look shattered, but they also wanted it to look like an image was reflecting light in all sorts of different directions. So they would take an image like this of a man, and they would break it up into smaller pieces and make it look kind of like a gemstone. One of the most famous painters is Pablo Picasso. He's no longer alive, but he is the one that we consider the first person to do cubism. He really liked to break up his spaces into smaller pieces using lights, darks, and middle tones. Although he is no longer alive today, some of his paintings sell for a fortune. So for instance, the painting that you're looking at sold for $189 million. To help understand how much that is truly worth, if you sold a Picasso painting, you could buy 189 Bugattis, or you could buy 100 mega mansions. Turn and talk to a friend. Why do you think these paintings are worth so much money? Now, let's talk about the reason why these paintings are so expensive. So, before Picasso, everyone basically painted the same. They painted realistic, and they painted things that they saw in life. When people saw Picasso's paintings when he was around, they thought they were very ugly. They did not like them. But this represented a change in the way people lived their lives. No longer did people feel like they had to paint something a certain way, or they had to do things the way that everyone else did. It was kind of like a revolution. That's why these paintings are so expensive. It is because it represents a time in history, a time when people were changing their minds about the way that they view the world. Okay, enough art history for today. Let's talk about our expectations for painting. Last time we began painting with our tints, shades, and hues. You may not like how it turned out, but don't worry, let's keep on moving through this, because at the very end we'll go back over it with Sharpie, and that's what's gonna make it look really real. So it may not look real right now, but it will look much more realistic later. When I dismiss you, you'll get to choose your colors so that you can make your tints, shades, and hues. So I've already used emerald, done a little bit of blue and purple. I did aquamarine last time, and I really wanna try and see what this alexandrite does today. So you should have already picked up your paintbrush and your paper towel when you walked in. Now I'm gonna be using the alexandrite color. I've already poured it, but I want to remind you, you just give it a little shake with the cap closed, and then you open the cap, turn it on its side, and then barely push, give it a little squeeze with your thumb, and that will get it enough to come out. You do not need a lot. You'll also need a little bit of the tint, which is going to be your white. Don't forget to make sure it's closed. Give it a little shake, open it back up, put it on its side, and you should have a little bit. You just need a tiny, tiny bit. And then of course you'll need your black. When you're painting, you want to start with the hue first, which is just the color by itself. Don't mix it yet. So I'll dip into the color, and then you can start painting the sides that you want. You can paint one shape. You could paint more than one shape. It's up to you how many you want to do the same colors. Each gemstone could be a different color. All I ask is that you share, try to reuse it if you can. Before you put the paint away or clean it out of the palette, maybe ask someone and see if they need to use it or someone nearby can use it. That way we use all of the paint. Because if I was just doing this one jewel right here and then I had all this paint left over, that's paint that I'll never get back unless someone else in the room uses it. Okay, so I'm gonna do these two stones right here, kind of that Alexandrite pink color. It's time for me to do the tints. So I need to clean my brush. I'm going to dip, swirl, let it drip, and then dab. No, not this kind of dab, this kind of dab. And then you can take one of your color and mix it with the tint shade. So the tint would be, I hope you said white. So you're just going to dip into the pink or whatever color you chose, and then swirl it around the white. Swirl until it is all mixed. So I'm getting this really pretty rose color. Now you can go ahead and do your tints. Remember, you're mixing it up. Doesn't really matter where you put it. Try to stay inside the lines, but if it's not perfect, it's okay because we will correct it later. On camera, this looks really bright. You can always make your tint just a tad bit more colorful by just going back and adding a little bit more of the hue in. So I have my tints done for that color. I'm gonna go ahead, dip, swirl, let it drip, dab, and now it's time for me to mix my shades. So I will mix the hue with what color? I hope you said black. The way I want you to do this is just dip into the black once. You don't need a whole lot, otherwise this will get crazy dark. And mix it with your hue. You want to mix until it is all mixed up. Be careful, if you mix too much black, kind of like I did, it will turn really, really dark. So if I did this again, I would probably use a little bit less black because it kind of makes everything a little bit too dark too fast. But even if it does get that dark, it'll still work and do what you need it to do. So now I'm done with the two rocks that I wanted the Alexandrite to be. So I can put my paintbrush in the water cup, give it a good cleaning. I'm gonna leave it there for now, and I'm gonna go over how to clean your palette if you're done, or if you need to switch colors. So I'm back here by the sink. Here's my palette. I'm going to clean it so that I can use a different color. And remember, you need to turn on the water just very, very slightly, not fast. You wanna do it slow water. Otherwise you will get wet. You're gonna wet this big old giant brush back here, put the water over the paint, and then you basically wanna paint the paint away. So you're using the water to clean the palette. It's the fastest way to do it. Go over all of that mess, get rid of it, and then once you have a clean palette and all those spots are gone, make sure that's clean, then you can shake it, dry it, and then get some new colors. This time I think I'm gonna try the citrine and see what that looks like when I make my hue, tints, and shade. Just as a final reminder, you don't need to add the water to the paint. The water is just for cleaning your brush. with the yellow, I'm noticing that it takes a couple layers of paint. I'm kind of letting it dry for a little while and then adding another layer to see if I can make it show up a little bit more, but otherwise it kind of looks a little bit undone when you do it with just one layer. I would do a couple layers with the yellow. Now, if you finish early, I didn't, I still have 2 more gemstones to do next time, or you run out of time like me, you're going to put yours on the drying rack. I prefer that people put theirs on the bottom first, rather than starting from the top. It's safer that way. When it's time to clean up, you're going to put your water cup with the paintbrush inside in the sink. I will have a couple of people cleaning our paint trays for us. I want to choose 2 different people, not the people I chose last time. Your paper towel can be thrown away. If you find extra paper towels or extra trash, please help out by cleaning that up as well. We will use wet wipes to clean our table. All right, guys, think about what kind of colors you want to use. Remember, today's not the last day, so don't rush this. Take your time, mix your colors carefully, don't use too much paint, and then don't forget to share. I hope that you all have an amazing day, and I am excited to see what these look like when they're done.